St. Mary's forward Cameron Williams makes the case that he is maybe the best prospect in all of college basketball. Where does Arizona stand with him, though?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. This show is brought to you today by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, we have got a lot to get to on this show. The first one that we need to talk about is Cam Williams and exactly where Cam Williams resides in the grand scheme of things. And I think that's what's going to be very, very fascinating with this. Cam Williams is an absolute stud. And the thing about him, when you watch Cam Williams, this was a guy that I wondered for the longest time why he was not ranked higher. Because, again, they had him at like 35 or something like that. He's way, way better than 35. I don't even know what to say. He's an absolute stud. There's no other way to put it. He's 6'11". Not only is he 6'11", he can also do some things as well that you watch and you're just like, whoa. He can handle the ball a little bit. He's got a little bit of that Kevin Durant thing going on too, where he's incredibly long and he makes plays that you shouldn't be able to. It makes plays that you make plays where you're just kind of like, okay, so. Where exactly are you with that? How can you get better? And I think that's the thing that's very, very fascinating about this. So he is incredibly fluid, though. Not only is he incredibly fluid, he's also a guy that you watch, he can run up and down the court. He's super athletic. And that's the thing, too. A lot of times you see guys that aren't necessarily great athletes, but, they can really shoot the ball. And they can also put forth a situation where you got a lot of people that are like, man, all right, well, that guy can do that. This guy can do that. That's kind of where we're at. So he is, but like I said, he is a next level. He's a next level player, and not only is he a next level player, he's also somebody too that is a really good kid. And you watch him, and you can just kind of tell that his best basketball is definitely in front of him. And I think that's something that's exciting about all of this is that he is barely scratching the surface of where exactly he is. So that's a fun part about all of this. Now, the other thing too that you got to watch then is Duke is in all of this. Duke knows exactly where you are and where exactly you are, and at the same stage, where exactly. If Duke's just different than everybody else, and I think we know that. At the same time, though, yes, Duke is different than everybody else, but that doesn't mean that Arizona can't get him. I will say this, and this is something too that you have to remember, and that Arizona has never lost a kid that it prioritized in-state very early on. That has never been the case. It has never happened. And so it would be something unique if this were to happen to the U of A, because it has never happened to this stage. Now, the other thing, too, that I think we look at is, and it's like, the other thing, too, that we look at is, you're also kind of like, all right, so who are the other targets, though? I think that's kind of where it's. I think that's kind of where it's at this point. So we shall see. But there is something that's very fascinating about him as well. Is that he's probably going. He's going to be a. He's probably going to be a one and done. He is also a guy. He's also a guy that when you watch him. He's also going to be somebody that he fits in really well. I don't understand why he can't be in a spot where he can play the small forward. and just kind of go from there. That's where it goes, because again, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. So we shall see. The other thing too that I'm also very, very curious about is where exactly is Arizona then when it comes to what its priority is then with Arizona level recruits. And I think the first thing you have to look at is Arizona is very, very good when it comes to these kind of recruits. And the first person, and the reason why, Cam Williams mentions Arizona almost number one every single time when he's asked about schools. Now Duke changes everything. That is obviously something that you need to keep an eye on, is that Duke does change everything, and it always will change everything. So you've obviously got that in play. So there's obviously that. But one thing that I will say as well is that Arizona hasn't lost a recruit in a long time, and I think the thing about it too is that Arizona should be able to get a kid like this. The one thing about it though with NIL is that with NIL you're also something that this is also kind of a spot where you're like, all right, so with NIL, how can Arizona get through here? And I think that you're kind of at the same stage too with Arizona, where that at the same stage you're probably going to be able to get this kid. But Duke is obviously a problem. Duke changes everything, so we will see exactly what happens with Duke. But Cam Williams was an absolute stud. He was all over the place. He was a monster. Not only was he a monster, he also showed out too a little bit of an ability, a newfound perimeter ability to kind of make plays a little bit off the bounce that he hadn't shown before. Again, I don't know that he's Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant's kind of a one in a million. There really hasn't been a player like Kevin Durant come through here in I don't know, ever. But he's got some real similarities to him. Not only does he have some real similarities to him, he is he's a player that you watch and you're just kind of like, all right, well, that's a next level type guy entirely. So he played incredibly well. He's going to move into the top five when the rankings are all said. Not only is he going to move into the top five, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he moves into the top three, to the top two. I don't know that anybody is going to take Stokes' position from him, but I also don't know that he's not a better prospect than. I don't also know that he's not a better prospect than Stokes. So there is. I think he probably is a better prospect. So that's going to be something that's going to be fun to watch. And exactly, like I said, how all of this does play out, we shall see. But it's an exciting day for Arizona when it comes to Arizona, and when it comes to in-state recruiting, because again, this state has taken off in in-state recruiting, whether that's Cam Williams, whether that's Koa Pete, whether that's whatever the case may be. That this is somebody that multiple times that this is a guy that Arizona is in a very unique situation here. So we will see. Now, Koa Pete, how Koa Pete is used is also probably going to really help Arizona. If Koa Pete comes to Arizona and under Tommy Lloyd, he's an absolute monster, it's going to make things even easier to recruit. Tommy Lloyd already put Dalen Terry into the NBA as a lottery pick, and he averaged not a lottery pick, but like the 18th pick, and he averaged like 8-4 here. Tommy Lloyd does a good job of putting guys that average like 8-4, 6-3 into the mid to high first round. He's probably going to do that with Carter. We're going to talk about that here in a second as well. But this is a nice little fit though for Arizona if you were to get Cam Williams. But Koa Pete is going to be the guy that if Koa Pete can ball out, I think that Koa Pete is he's going to set the trend. He's going to set the track mark for the exact same thing. So we shall see. I'm excited to see what he can do, because Pete's a different guy. Pete is a different guy, and Pete is not only a different guy, he is a guy that if he was wearing if Koa Pete was wearing any other jersey, it really wouldn't matter. It matters that he's wearing Arizona. Can Arizona continue Can Arizona continue that? We shall see. But I think Arizona is in a very, very good spot with Cam Williams. We're going to talk about, though, the one elephant in the room, though, when it comes to Cam Williams and some other recruits. But first, Monarch Money, my friends, Monarch Money. Okay, here's the deal. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, shopping online, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. Here's the deal. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Check out Monarch Money. Again, stop just maintaining wealth and start generating wealth. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. And now, let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room when it comes to Cam Williams. And that is that Duke has a very substantive NIL. And I think with Duke, the same thing is that, you can, like with Dame Sarr, they needed a wing. They went out and they offered Dame Sarr $3 million. He is like I said, that's a different situation here. There's we will see how that plays out, but they're going to be able to give him more. But Arizona's also shown that it's very competitive when it comes to this. Koa Pete could have gone anywhere in the country, and they were able to get Koa Pete. Now, let's talk about another guy that's a top 5 player. Bruce Branch, my friends. Bruce Branch. Now 24/7 has him ranked as the number 2 player in the entire class. Bruce Branch is a stud. You watch Bruce Branch and you can tell immediately that he's a little bit different. He's about 6'8". He might still be growing. He can move really well. He can handle. He can get to the bucket. He can shoot. His best basketball is in front of him. And I think that's what's kind of exciting about him. I don't love him going to a prolific prep, though, in Florida. I'm not a big fan of that. That doesn't mean that Arizona can't get him, but at the same time, it also means too that you are, with a guy like that, you are of the situation where you're going to have to work to get him. There have been guys that have left the state, but it's been a little bit of a different situation entirely. And I think the first one that you look at and you say, okay, well, that's a little bit, you look at it and you say that's a little bit different, is, okay, where is it at then with somebody like, a Nick Johnson? Nick Johnson left the state. Now, granted, he was only going to Nevada, but it is what it is. Nick Johnson left the state and he decided to come back. I think that's kind of where we are. I think that's kind of where we are. So that's where I'm excited about all this. So we shall see. And I watch this and I think to myself, where exactly can Arizona get with Bruce Branch? 2027 is going to be a big class for the Cats because, again, you got Branch, you got Darius Wobbington, who we're going to get to here in a second. You got Jason Gardner Jr., possibly. There's a lot of different guys, so we shall see. So there is that. Now, Darius Wobbington, another one. With Darius Wobbington, he's really, really good. He did not necessarily have a great game. And when I say a great performance here at Section 7, but at this stage what he is, exactly what he can do. And I think that's the part that's exciting about him. And Arizona has offered him. Arizona would love to get him. And so we shall see if Arizona ends up getting him or not. I think there's a very likely chance that Arizona gets him. And I think when Arizona does get him, he's going to be a multi-year player, and not only a multi-year player, but somebody that is able to that you're kind of able to build around. Is he super athletic? No. He hangs around on the perimeter probably a little too much, sure. But at the same time, he's also somebody as well that you watch and you're like, okay, that guy could be an NBA player. That guy can be an All-American at some stage. That is the kind of player that you have in somebody like a Darius Washington. He didn't perform great, but we already know kind of what he can do at this point. So I don't know that there's really any reason to move on from this. So there is that. So now a couple other guys then to keep an eye on. DeMarcus Henry, very interesting player. Chris Henry's kid. He is transferring from Santa Ana, Mater Dei, and he is transferring to Compass Prep. That will be interesting to see how that plays out. He's a talented guy. He's a 2027 kid. You watch him move up and down the court. Pretty talented. Lets the game come to him. He's a really, really good athlete. He's every bit of 6'8". Not only is he every bit of 6'8", he could still be growing, and I think that's what's intriguing about him, is that he could still be growing. And so I'm excited to see how that part plays out. But Arizona, I would imagine, will be on him again if he's at Compass. Arizona's got a good record with in-state kids, at those prep schools that they prioritize. I think Akinelozzi will probably be another one. So Henry, another guy to definitely keep an eye on. Now, there's some other guys, too, that we need to talk about. Sounds like Arizona has dropped Taj Ariza. I do not know why Arizona's dropped Taj Ariza, but Arizona will not be getting him. Guys like that, though, too. He's with Clutch. I get all of that, but sometimes it's just not a perfect fit. And I think that's kind of I think that's probably the situation with Ariza. Plus, I could see him commanding $3-4 million. Tommy Lloyd has been coaching him on Team USA, or was coaching him. He cut him, didn't play particularly well. Maybe that had something to do with it as well. I don't know exactly, but that could certainly be the case. Now, so the other thing too that we need to look at is where exactly then Arizona then on some other players too that we weren't exactly sure about where Arizona stood with them. Arizona would still love to get Christian Collins. He was cut from the team, but watching Christian Collins, I don't see any reason why he can't play with Cam Williams. Now again, you might not be able to pay for both guys, but Cam Williams to me is a 3. Cam Williams to me is clearly a 3, and when I watch him, I don't think that there's any other position that he is going to play other than the 3. That's kind of where I see him with this, where I see him with that. And again, Christian Collins, he could play the 4. Who knows? Does Arizona end up getting him? Both, probably not. Probably can't afford it, but kind of is what it is. So, like I said, we shall see on that one. Now, Arizona is also a football school. We've known this. We've talked about this from day one, and we will continue to talk about the prospects of Arizona and possibly getting a massive commitment here shortly. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about then where we're at with Oscar Rios out of Downey, California. Oscar Rios is an interesting player, a very, very interesting player in that he's about 6'3", he's very, very skinny, but he can really wing the ball kind of around the field a little bit. You watch him, you see how he plays and how he moves, and you're just kind of like, wow, okay, that's a guy that looks the part. Now he's got to get better. He throws from kind of an odd angle that doesn't take advantage of his height, but he's still a top 200 kid in the country. He's a top 20 quarterback, and you got to give Seth Doege a lot of credit for that. I'm kind of at the point with Seth Doege where whoever Seth Doege wants, I'm totally cool with that because I think Seth Doege is really, really good at. I think that Seth Doege is a very good evaluator of what he wants, and that's clearly who he wants. I don't believe that Arizona is getting him if they don't. I don't believe that Arizona is getting him if Seth Doege isn't here, mainly because last year you watched it, and this was a squad that wasn't very good. This was an offense that was not. This was an offense that also was not very good. This was also an offense as well that didn't really seem to have an idea on what they were doing. And I think that's the part that was a little bit, is that you just never really saw any bona fide plan for what they were trying to do. And so there's, like I said, that's a part that I think is a little bit frustrating if you're an Arizona fan, is that they weren't really going to look at it that way. So there is a point too where I'm like, all right, so where exactly is this? So now, as the that's kind of where I'm at this point. Sorry, so that's kind of where I'm at. So we shall see. Now, I think with Rios, though, that would be a really, really good one to be able to shoot and to be, to really be able to play, and we shall see. Now, I think this coaching staff, one thing that I think they're going to be able to do is I think they're going to be able to have a pretty good wide receiver unit. I think that they're going to be able to really put I think they're going to be able to really make a difference here. And so that's where, because they're going to come in. And one thing about Brent Brennan, he's done a pretty good job with wide receivers over the years. You look at a guy like how do I put this? Somebody like a Nick Nash, or when he was at Oregon State, a Brandon Cooks. He's had a lot of different guys that have really kind of stepped up to the plate and shown that they can play, that they can turn into big time wide receivers. Now, I'm not going to give him a ton of credit for T-Mac, because I think I could have coached T-Mac to that, but he's got a pretty decent track record when it comes to wide receivers, and I think that's something that you could probably see continue. Now, where exactly then is Arizona with some of these other players? It's all going to come down to Oscar Rios. If you get the quarterback, I think that you could start working out from there, because he's a guy that's got some real gravitas in Southern California. Again, going to Downey. He's also somebody as well that you could see him come in for a year, sit behind Noah, and then he's ready to go. And I think that's kind of, what Arizona is hoping for, because I don't know that I look at anybody on this roster and say, yeah, that's the answer. I don't know that I really see anybody like that. And so that's kind of where I'm at with this one. So when it comes to Rios, I'm in on Rios. I hope that Arizona gets him. I'm also in on Deggy, though. I think Deggy's got such a good track record with quarterbacks. I think you're going to continue to see this one bear out, and you're going to see Arizona continue to do well. We shall see, though, on that one. Now, the other one, too, that I want to look at is how exactly does this, on the offensive line? Arizona just got a big offensive line commitment. It's going to be interesting, though, because they're clearly going for height. They're clearly going for dudes that are bigger. And when you go for guys that are taller, a little bit stronger, hopefully, because you're going to need guys that could come in and play. You look at Arizona's offensive line, and there's really next to no proven talent. You could say that somebody like you could say somebody like a big Rhino is good, but yeah, he's been injury prone. We haven't seen a ton of him. Chuba is going to graduate. DeCambra won't be here long. You could be looking at a Buchanan. You could be looking at a Bounds, somebody like that. But you need to bring in a lot of different guys. And when I say you need to be able to bring in a lot of different guys that are big, guys that are slow, guys that are fast, you name it, you got to be able to bring in guys that can do all of that kind of stuff. So, like I said, we shall see how that one does play out. But like I said, if Arizona can get Rios, that's a really nice hit, because again, nobody on this roster I look at as a long-term answer. I don't look at Tyler Haugo as a long-term answer. Maybe Sawyer Robertson, he could be a guy to keep an eye on. Like I said, but I don't look at Locke. I don't look at Haugo. There's not a lot of guys that I look at on this roster and say that's one of the ones that I could see making it to that next level. Okay, now tomorrow we're going to talk about Carter Bryant. We're going to talk about the NBA draft. We're going to talk about Tommy Lloyd, Team USA. What exactly is going on there? We're going to talk about also some guys whose stock maybe fluctuated a little bit, that maybe went a little bit up and down, that maybe we didn't necessarily see. I think there's some of that in play as well. But like I said, it's going to be a very interesting time for the University of Arizona. And like I said, I think that this recruiting class is going to do very, very well for them, very, very well for themselves. All right. But on that note, though, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. Cam Williams is really, really good and a top 5 player. If you take nothing else from this show, take that. We will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.